Well, welcome to one and all. This is Matthias 76, and we welcome you to this Bible study today. We're working our way through the book of Joshua. And last time we talked about Joshua 12, verses 4 and 5, and that took us on to a little side journey into the 22nd Psalm, into how this cosmic warfare, cosmological warfare that we talk about, how that played out all the way to the cross. So that's where we were last time. If you missed that, you can go to the playlist and pick it up. What we're going to do this time, I had said that at this point in the book of Joshua, there is a lot of detail. And it's detail that's important. It talks about where they settled, what the boundaries were, goes into the allotment for the Levites, the tribe of Levi, because they didn't get a territory. They had cities scattered throughout the promised land. But to go through all of that it wouldn't be beneficial for what our purposes are here. I encourage you to read it or listen to it is probably easier, but it's not something that is Bible study material for this type of study. So what I have done for today, we're going to kind of advance to different points along the way and talk about some specific things that I have chosen to go into. So we're going to first go to Joshua 14, verse 6. So boom, we just covered 2 chapters. It's pretty impressive, I know. But it brings someone up about whom we have not heard for some time, and that is Caleb. And remember, going way back into the Torah, Caleb was one of the 12 spies along with Joshua. Caleb was the other one along with Joshua, who, it can be said even more vocally than Joshua, said, no, the Lord has given us this land. We can take it. Yeah, they're giant and they're many and they have fortified cities, all that stuff, but we can take it. We can do it. And we know how the rest of that story went. But he gets singled out for an inheritance here. So we'll just take a look at it. Then the people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, in Kadesh Barnea concerning you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in my heart. But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt, yet I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses swore on that day, saying, surely the land on which your foot has trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years since the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now, behold, I am this day 85 years old. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then, for war and for going and coming. And then he goes on to ask for the land. We'll go ahead and finish it. So now give me this hill country of which the Lord spoke on that day, for you heard on that day how the Anakim were there with great fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out, just as the Lord said. Okay. So he's calling in his chip, right? He was told, you'll have that land, that specific land. And apparently, back when this was gone over in what we studied previously, it was understood there was some specific land here that he was going to get. And I don't even think, and I didn't look to check, I don't even think this is something that is directly referenced before, but this is what Moses had told him, and Joshua is going to honor that. But it gives us a time frame. And these things, I highlighted it for a reason. It's like a little hook on the timeline, and we could go by and not think about it. This is 45 years later. Well, it would have been 40 years later that they started the conquest. So we just got a point on the timeline for how long this had been going on. It's 5 years. Up to this point, it had been 5 years that they were, and I'm going to pull a map up here because we like maps. 5 years that they had been conquering all of this land. Okay. So, we can hear it, we can read it. The time frame is lost to us. So 5 years, it's been 45 years since the promise was made. Again, I like to remind myself of this as I'm going through the scriptures, and you see these time periods. 45 years ago, I was 13 years old. 13 years old. That seems like an eternity ago to me in more ways than one. We can talk about that with some of the other things that Caleb says. But he's waited 45 years for the fulfillment of this promise. What's the longest you've ever waited for the fulfillment of a promise? And I'm not talking about a promise from God, just a promise, period. Something that was promised to you. We are impatient. We are impatient. We want things to happen now. We rightly pray about the end of the world. Come, Lord Jesus, just come and take us all. We want it now. The Lord operates in a different way as regards this thing in which we exist called time. And we need to pray for patience. We need to pray for faithfulness, that God would give us faithful hearts. And a faithful heart is, by definition, when you understand what faithful means, a faithful heart is a patient heart. All the Lord's promises are going to come true. I just need to be faithful. I'm not charged with knowing how long something is going to go on. God doesn't tell me the future. You know why God doesn't tell me the future? Because I can't handle the future. I can barely handle now. With his help, I can barely handle now. If he told me the future, I'd probably blow a gasket. I'd probably lose my mind. I have no idea. His promise is, I'll have you ready for it and see you through it, whatever comes. So just a healthy, faithful consideration of time and its passing, and patience and humility, because humility comes in that too. Who am I? Who am I to tell God how fast something ought to happen? Seriously, who am I? Who am I to demand? Who am I to be impatient? All of that is ungrateful, and it's definitely not faithful. I do get a kick out of it. My father is, 85, or is he 86? He's 86, getting ready to turn 87. Can you imagine? I mean, Caleb was a seriously buff dude. He's one of the 12 spies. They didn't just get sent because of their intelligence. He sent them out on a military, like force recon spying mission. And Caleb is saying, And now, behold, I'm this day 85 years old. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength is now as is my strength now is as my strength was then for war and for going and coming. That just blows my mind. He's 85 years old and he's saying he's still as tough as he ever was. And I don't think that's just bravado. Just interesting to think about. Heck, I wish my strength was as it was when I was 40 years old. I'd take that happily at my age now. I would gladly take that, right? And a lot of other people out there, I'm sure, are thinking the same thing. But it talks about there, for you heard on that day how the Anakim were there. And I hope by now, and some of you are new to this channel, I know because we've got new subscribers all the time on all the different platforms. Anakim, Rephaim, these are terms, there are many different terms that were for giants. Giants. They were the offspring, the descendants from this weird thing that happened where divine spiritual beings came down and mated with women, and they were infecting the bloodline, and there were still a bunch of them around. And part of the purpose of the conquest, because right here in this place we're looking at, this was Rephaim, Anakim, Zemzumim, one of the other terms, central. This is where they were, and they were charged with destroying them. It's a cosmological war, but Caleb is talking about there are still some of them there in great fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me and I shall drive them out, just as the Lord said. That's referenced other places that Caleb wiped part of them out. So this land that he was promised by Moses is going to be given to him by Joshua, because Joshua is now the ruler, right? And he's going to take care of those guys. He's going to wipe them out. Is a really buff, tough, 85-year-old guy, him and his family. Then Joshua blessed him, and he gave Hebron to Caleb. And Hebron, that's one of those places that comes up again and again throughout the Old Testament moving forward. He gave Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, for an inheritance. Therefore, Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Now, we don't talk this way. We don't talk this way. It says it, and then it repeats it again in kind of a formulaic way. That was, if you're buying a house, and if you actually read the documents when it comes time for closing, the stuff that you pay a lawyer to take care of, there is formulaic legal language that is used. Okay, it's language that only a lawyer can understand. They kind of create their own work that way. But this is the equivalent lawyer legal title talk for the day. It's like making it a decree. Now, the name of Hebron formerly was Kiriath Arba. Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim, and the land had rest from war. So Caleb, the faithful guy, the tough guy, in a good sense, he's charged with taking out the toughest of the Anakim, basically. Now, I thought of this earlier as I was looking through this stuff again. It doesn't say they were giants. They were giants. Just like if, I'm trying to think of a good example. If I tell you someone's in a biker gang, I'm not putting down people in biker gangs. We have to make sure and clarify all these things today, right? But if I tell you somebody's in a biker gang, you know that he's wearing a leather vest. He's got a helmet, maybe with a spike on the top, and tattoos and leather pants and big Harley boots, right? You just know that. Why? Because we all know what biker gang people look like. Just like if I tell you someone's an attorney, you get a mental image of what he looks like. He's got his briefcase, his satchel, his suit, etc. Nobody had, all they had to do was say Anakim, Rephaim, those things, and everybody knew what it was. Okay? So we don't catch the buzzwords unless they're pointed out to us, and we've conditioned ourselves. And if you've been listening for a while, you might be out there going, okay, yeah, we know Rephaim, Anakim, giants, Genesis 6, blah, 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 blah. And that's a good thing. You're familiar with it because it is important to the fabric of this narrative. Now we're going to jump ahead. And I'll issue a challenge. If you say, why are we skipping ahead? Then I will just encourage you, read the stuff in between and ask yourself, do I want to listen to him talk about that for 15 minutes? And you'll say, no, I read it. That's good. That's good. Not that it's not important. It's not Bible study material. According to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, he gave Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, a portion among the people of Judah, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. Okay. And Caleb drove out from there the three sons of Anak, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak. And he went up from there against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir formerly was Kiriath Sepher. That's geography stuff. Right? Now they call it Debir, then they called it Kiriath Sepher. Okay? It's like you come into someplace in the United States, if we were back 150 years, someone might be saying, oh yeah, this is the mountain that the Indians called this, the Cherokee called this, or the Sioux called that. Now we call it Rapid City. You know, it's the same kind of thing. But we get into something interesting here. This is why I picked it. Verse 16, and Caleb said, whoever strikes Kiriath Sepher and captures it, to him I will give Achish, my daughter, as wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, captured it, and he gave him Achish, his daughter, as wife. To us, that just seems, at best, to our sensibilities, our mindset, it seems odd. We might likely, and the women out there probably hear that and go, that's lousy. What a lousy way to get your husband. I'm not here to defend the practices of antiquity. And this wasn't a Hebrew thing, that this was an everybody thing. Fathers picked the husbands for their daughters. Period. For many of us, we think, I'm glad she picked him because I would never pick somebody that good. He's a wonderful husband. He's a wonderful father to my grandchildren. Others among us might think, man, that practice wouldn't be so bad. If I would have picked my daughter's husband, she wouldn't be with that guy, right? We do things differently. It's different. It's not better. It's not worse. Maybe it is. Depends on your opinion. But this is the way they did things. And this wasn't a bad way to do it. He's making sure that the guy his daughter gets is a real man. He's like him, right? He's a young Caleb. That's who this guy, Achish, that's the daughter, Othniel, he proved himself. There are worse qualities. Probably he was going to be a good provider. He was probably most certainly in a fairly dangerous land, capable of protecting his daughter after Caleb was gone. But, and the daughter seems okay with it, but she's going to play it up a little bit. She's Caleb's daughter. Hey, let's see, when she came to him, she urged him to ask her father for a field, and she got off her donkey. And Caleb said to her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Give me a blessing. Since you have given me the land of the Negev, give me also springs of water." And he gave her the upper springs as well as the lower springs. So it's kind of like a dowry, right? He's giving her and water. Watch, if you're an Old Western movie type person, and you've watched a lot of them, a lot of the struggle and strife was about what? Water. The bad guy bought a piece of land and blocked off all the water from everybody else, right? They didn't just come up with that plot line. It was something that went on frequently. Water is a tremendously valuable resource. It's a tremendously valuable resource now, and there are forces in the world playing with it. All right, we're going to, again, jump ahead a couple more chapters. It just caught my eye, and I thought it was worth discussing. Then the people of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, "Why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, although I am a numerous people, since all along the Lord has blessed me?" Who's the tribe of Joseph? Think. Joseph is Ephraim and Manasseh. Remember, his sons, Jacob, we're going way back into the end of Genesis now. Before Jacob died, Israel died, Joseph brought his sons to him, and they got a double portion. Joseph was Jacob's favorite. Joseph had also been treated terribly. He gave them a double portion. So when you look at maps of the promised land and Israel, the nation of Israel, when it was divided among the tribes, there isn't a nation of Joseph. In the listing off of things, it isn't listed as Joseph, except in one spot in the book of Revelation. It's not listed as Joseph, it's Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay. Here, they're saying we haven't exactly gotten that to this point, is what they are saying. And they're not happy about it, but they came as the people of Joseph and spoke to Joshua, saying, why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, although I am a numerous people, since all along the Lord has blessed me? Now, Reuben and half tribe of Manasseh, Reuben, Ephraim, half tribe of Manasseh, were on the other coast, on the other side of the Jordan. So I think this is talking about what was to go on the west side of the Jordan. And Joshua said to them, "If you are a numerous people, go up by yourselves to the forest and there clear ground for yourselves in the land of the Perizzites and let it jump off the page at you, Rephaim, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you." Joshua is here pointing out, he's putting into practice something that is becoming, what's the word? I'm having trouble finding the vocabulary I want to use today. The practice, what was being put in place was that the rest of the promised land, Joshua's done with all this. He's an old guy. We're going to get to that later on. He's an old guy, and as a collective, they weren't conquering anymore. But the individual tribes were going to expand out their area the way they were supposed to, what was allotted to them, but they're going to do that as individuals or small collectives doing that. That was the plan going forward. It doesn't exactly go that way, but that's the plan. The people of Joseph said, the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. The people of Joseph said, the hill country is not enough for us. Yet all the Canaanites who dwell in the plain have chariots of iron, both those in Bethshan and its villages and those in the valley of Jezreel. Then Joshua said to the house of Joseph, they're kind of whining. They're not whining, but that wasn't fair. They're pointing out, this isn't like going in and kicking out some nobodies. These guys are tough. They're Rephaim there, and they got chariots of iron. Translate armor, tanks. Then Joshua said to the house of Joseph, jumped and I lost my place. Then Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh. See, Joseph is Ephraim and Manasseh. You are a numerous people and have great power. You shall not have one allotment only, but the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall clear it and possess it to its farthest borders. For you shall drive out the Canaanites, though they have chariots of iron, and though they are strong. He's telling them, you can do this. And it almost could be seen as a blessing, right? You're going to do this. It's decreed. It'll happen. I don't know if we can take it that far, but still. Okay. Allotment of the remaining land. I included this. There's a bunch of stuff we're going to skip after this, but I included this because it talks about polity, how things were being done. Because remember, except for the 12 spies, and how many of the 12 spies were left? Joshua and Caleb. The other 10 died right away. They're the only two who had seen, this is my point. They are the only two who had seen the land before they got there. They were the only ones. So there's this land up north that still hasn't been settled, and they're going to do the allotment for it. But here he's coming up with a democratic way of how this is going to go down. Then the whole congregation of the people of Israel assembled at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there. The land lay subdued before them. So when it says the whole congregation of Israel, what does that mean? Delegations from the different tribes, leadership, they came together. So pretty much everything's as it was supposed to be done to this point, it's done. The land lay subdued before them. There remained among the people of Israel 7 tribes whose inheritance had not yet been apportioned. So Joshua said to the people of Israel, how long will you put off going in to take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you? Provide 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out that they may set out and go up and down the land. In other words, cruise through it. They shall write a description of it with a view to their inheritance, and then come to me. They shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah shall continue in his territory in the south, and the house of Joseph shall continue in their territory on the north. And you shall describe the land in 7 divisions and bring the description here to me. And I will cast lots for you here before the Lord our God. What does that sound like? Does it bring anything to mind if you're paying careful attention? So there's one in the pan of brownies, there's 1 piece left in the corner, good sized piece. Oftentimes people will do what? I cut, you pick. Right? If 1 piece is bigger or more desirable than the other, you can pick it. I'll do the cutting, you pick, right? It kind of keeps things fair. So this 7 times 3, the 21 of you are going to divide up what you think would be a fair allotment of the land without deciding who gets what, right? You're not if I'm picking out my piece of land, well, what do I care if they get this rocky, barren wasteland over there? That's their problem. I've got the good stuff. You don't know which piece you're going to get. So divide it as equitably as possible, and then we'll cast lots for it before the Lord our God. And that casting lots was seen and understood as a way of allowing God to decide, right? It wasn't just luck. It wasn't chance as we think of it. God will decide who gets which piece. But you can bet that each one of those delegations of 3 was very adamant about making sure whatever piece we get, it's going to be a fair allotment to us. And so that way, it's fair to everyone. And it does go on to say, not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of the Lord is their heritage. And Gad and Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond the Jordan eastward, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them. So that was before. They received that before, and then they came over, the fighting men, to help conquer the promised land. And you'd hope they got to go home every now and then because it has been a while. Okay. So Joshua gets a special inheritance. When they had finished distributing the several territories of the land as inheritances, the people of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua, the son of Nun. By command of the Lord, they gave him the city that he asked, Timnah-Serah, in the hill country of Ephraim, and he rebuilt the city and settled in it. So Joshua got his own city. He got his own place for his clan, and that most certainly is only right, and no one had any problem with that happening that way at all. Jump again, chapter 21. And this is kind of a summary. This is a summary. Thus the Lord gave to Israel all the land that he swore to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it, and they settled there. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their fathers. Not one of all of their enemies had withstood them, for the Lord had given all their enemies into their hands. Not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass. Nice summary, but so important that we apply this truth. It's not just a truth that we look back on. It's not something that we look back on. It is also something that we take, and it forms the foundation for our trust in God's promises moving forward, right? That nothing in all creation can separate me from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Let's go to that. That would be a good thing because we got some time. We'll start off with this. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. That's pretty profound. That's pretty profound. In the depths of the lowest moment of your life, you can know that all things work for the good, that God makes that happen. It is a promise, and that changes that low moment, doesn't it? If you hold fast to that word, that promise, then it is going to change that negative as a positive. That doesn't make it fun, but it does change it. For those whom he foreknew, we're getting into some deep stuff here. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. We're not going to try to dig into predestination here because there is just not time. That's kind of a standalone thing, but it is a big thing. And understand this is the most important thing about election and predestination. It's all about comfort. It's all about comfort. The church fights over it a lot, and it is misunderstood often. And when it is misunderstood, what gets shortchanged is God's glory and God's might and his knowledge and his power. But predestination, election, it's all about comfort. And those whom he predestined, he also called, and those whom he called, he also justified, and those whom he justified, he also glorified. So this is where I was going. I should have just started at 31, but what then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? Who shall bring any charge against God's elect? It is God who justifies. Who is it? Who is to condemn? Christ Jesus is the one who died, more than that, who was raised, who is at the right hand of God, who indeed is interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Paul's presenting this as an axiomatic truth. No one can. Nothing can. Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword, all those things that you fear, they can't separate you from him. They can't. As it is written, for your sake we are being killed all the day long. We are regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am sure that neither death nor life nor angels nor rulers nor things present nor things to come nor powers. What are powers? What do you think Paul has in mind? Powers. That's spiritual powers. Nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. So that truth back here, and it's stated many times in different ways, that God's promises, none of them failed to come true. They all came to pass. We need to take that and apply it looking forward, that the same thing holds for those promises we just read there in Romans 8. Nothing can undo them. Nothing can undo them, because God has an advantage over all the forces arrayed against us. And what is that? They're all created. They're all created. Satan and the lords of hell, all of his minions, what are they? They are created. Therefore, they answer ultimately to him. And he may give them for time a good bit of leash, a good bit of free rein, but they still, in the end, answer to him, and they will fall to him. I encourage you, go look at the Battle of Armageddon, in that they arrayed for battle in a place called Armageddon. There isn't a battle. They line up for battle, and it's over. It's done, because he says it's done. They cannot stand against him. So we need that assurance. His promises have always come through. Not one word from him has fallen to the ground. They all come true, and they will all come true as we move forward. All right. We'll go ahead and cover this. The Eastern tribes get to go home. At that time, Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, "You have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I have commanded you. You have not forsaken your brothers these many days, down to this day, but have been careful to keep the charge of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brothers as he promised them. Therefore turn and go to your tents in the land where your possession lies, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. Only be very careful to observe the commandment and the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God and to walk in all his ways and to keep his commandments and to cling to him and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul." So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. So these guys really went the extra mile. They were faithful. They did what they were supposed to do. They came and fought for their brothers, and it had been 5 years, and now they finally get to go home. They kept their word. They were true to their word, and they get to go home. And it's important we understand those things matter. It's not just old-fashioned, keeping your word, doing what you promised to do. And it is always honored and recognized by God. Maybe no one else cares. Maybe they don't, but he does. And even though we may not receive recognition from anyone else for doing what is right, God sees and God knows. And we don't have to blow a horn to make sure that he sees and knows it, because he just does. All right, we're going to stop there because, well, that's as far as I prepared for us to go. So it's a little bit shorter, 15 minutes shorter today, but we will pick up next time. And what we're going to cover is the basically Joshua's farewell and all the stuff that is in that. And then we will have cruised through the book of Joshua, and I am thinking on what it is we're going to do next. I'm thinking that we might go and do the book of Ephesians, do some Apostle Paul. It's comparatively short, very theologically dense and weighty, but relatively short, and then get back into some Old Testament stuff again, perhaps. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. Do encourage you that if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. We encourage you to subscribe. And if you subscribe, make sure and hit that notification bell. And that way you're notified every time we put out new content. We put out new content 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, unless it's a holiday. We're putting new content out there. And also, if you find this valuable, please consider sharing it with someone else. God bless and have a great day. That concludes our broadcast for today. We publish our videos on YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a like or a thumbs up. We invite you to subscribe so you can continue to receive our content. Also, please consider sharing this video with others. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. This is Matthias 76, and together we will continue to decode the deception.